Hi guys, I wanted to talk about some expiration dates for makeup products because it seems that some of us have large collections and we only use some of them on special occasions. And then we realize, oh, I've had that for 5 years. Yeah, it's probably expired. So I did a little digging and I looked at a few sources online, which I will post the links to below. Um, and some of it was like Bobbi Brown from Elle magazine, aboutbeauty.com, stuff like that, and they talk about how long products are good for. So I kind of went down the list and compared what they said. I'm going to read you some times that these things expire and talk about a little bit each of them, how you can make them last longer, the best way to do it, just tips for keeping your products clean and lasting as long as possible. So, as a general consensus, eyeshadows, as in powders, blushes, um, face powders, bronzer powders, those are usually good for 2 to 3 years. So, we're talking if you bought it today, July of 2017, maybe. Like, that's pretty good. That's why I don't feel bad, like, buying a lot of MAC eyeshadows. I mean, I have a problem, okay? That's like a third of my collection. But if they're good till like 2017, you know, there's a pretty good chance that I might use them all up. For lipstick, it's the same, 2 to 3 years. One site said 1 to 4 years. Another site said 1 year. But for the most part, it was 2 to 3 years. And I've owned a lot, like some of my MAC ones for quite a while, and they still work pretty well. So I think that's true. For eyeliner, there was a big conflict. Some of them said 1 year, some of them said 3 years. So what I would say is if you sharpen it, if it's a sharpenable eyeliner, that it's probably okay if you use it at the 3 year point, as long as you're using a new clean tip, you know what I mean? And you can, like if you go to the MAC store and you want to use a lipstick, they clean it with some form of alcohol wipe or something. So they spray it with something and then they wipe it down to make it so you can use it and it's sanitized. So you can do that on your own products at home. A lot of the product life and the shelf life isn't because the product itself is going to go bad. It's because of the bacteria that grows in it if you use it. Sometimes it's the sunlight, sometimes it's the air, the oxygen that's going to hit it. But a lot of times it's just because we're dirty and oily, and if you keep putting your finger in the pot of eyeshadow or whatever, it's going to be gross after a certain amount of time. I mean, it's just a matter of how often do you use it? Are you going to be the kind of person that's going to use that every single day? I'm looking for one of my, I don't think I have it in here. It's just like a pot, like a MAC paint pot that you dip your finger into. I use it as an eye primer. That is one of like the biggest no-nos that I saw. I mean, the biggest thing you can do is try to keep the jar tightly closed and wash your fingers and hands before you put your hand into it. But still, a lot of these sites like were, oh my gosh, no, don't get stuff in a pot. Don't get anything that you have to put your finger into. That automatically is like a trigger for bacteria because they're not even dry products; they're mostly wet products. So water is a better breeding ground for that kind of stuff. Foundation, there was kind of a conflict here. 6 to 12 months, depending on if it's a water-based foundation, an oil-based foundation, or what. 1 year, said another site. One said 12 to 18 months, and another one said 2 years. So somewhere in between 6 and 24 months, I guess, would be okay for your foundation. What I would say is if it starts to separate in the bottle, in the uh, tube, like if it's oil and then color, or if it dries out, or if you're noticing it used to be one color and now it's like orange, or like it's oxidized, or it just looks funky, smells bad, probably don't use it anymore. Um, and then lip gloss, it's 2 to 3 years. That's what I've seen all around. But that again, if you're using the same lipstick applicator, the same gloss applicator inside the tube, that can get dirty. So 2 to 3 years is how long the product is good for. But if you're sharing it with 18 of your closest friends, it might not last that long. Nail polish is pretty much a year, maybe 2 years. I have nail polish that I've had for 5 years or more, and it's still fine. But I do notice that after a while, it starts kind of not being my favorite because it doesn't go on as smoothly. So maybe get going through your collections and get rid of some that you had quite a while. Concealer, they're good for anywhere between 1 year and 2 years. And that depends on the formula, I think. Um, Whether it's a cream or a one with an applicator or kind you just squeeze out of a tube and tap on? I mean, are you using a brush? Are you washing your brushes? Are you using your finger? Are you washing your finger? Is it the kind that you just like a stick, like you paint on your face like a lipstick? Are you dotting it on? Is it a powder? Is it a, I mean, it depends on the formula, but the general consensus was 1 to 2 years. Moisturizers and cleansers are about 1 year. That was pretty consistent around the websites that I've looked at. Mascara, unfortunately, ladies, this one's not good news. This I'm gonna read you the 4 results: 4 to 6 months, 4 months, 6 months, 4 months. So if you're like me and you have 6 mascaras, chances are you're gonna be down to 1 mascara after you watch this because they're only good for 4 to 6 months. Maybe you're one of those women that like rarely wears makeup, so you use that mascara 1 day a week. You don't want to throw it out at 6 months. You're not getting the best lashes you could. Even if your brush isn't contaminated by your bacteria, the product itself tends to dry out. So you're always saying, "Oh, my friends have such pretty eyelashes and I have ugly ones." That's probably because your mascara is 2 years old and theirs is 3 months. So if you're having problems with your lashes not seeming big enough or bold enough and you're wondering why, try replacing your mascara. And lip liner is about 1 year, or one said less than 3 years, no more than 3 years. And then brushes and sponges. So your sponges should be washed weekly, they say. I think that's assuming that you do your makeup every single day with the same sponge. And then wash it weekly and get rid of it every month. And I've seen month to 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And then your brushes, they should be washed depending on how often you use them, either monthly or every 2 months. So I wash mine every few weeks only because I'm constantly doing my makeup. I do my makeup at least once a day. I might take 1 day off on the weekend, but I'm doing it a lot. Some other facts you might find interesting: that perfumes that are in dark or opaque bottles actually last longer. So when you're shopping for perfume, keep an eye on the ones that have darker opaque bottles because they're only good for 3 to 5 years from production date. So I have probably 5 to 6 perfumes, and they're all in clear bottles. They're really nice perfumes. I mean, some of them are like $40 to $80, but I've had them for several years and they're starting to smell a little strong, a little weird. And they used to be clear-ish and now they're kind of yellowed. So I know it's time to part with them. Just some helpful hints. I'm going to take a couple extra minutes here to talk about storing your makeup. I saw online that some tips were to store your products in a cabinet or drawer away from the sunlight. Wash your hands before you use them. Tighten the cap before you, after you use them, and keep them in room temperature. Avoid the humidity and different climates. If you take them in a plain, especially nail polish, I mean, it might change the consistency. You can write the date of purchase on the back or on the box of a product, or just keep a log of it and know when it's time to throw it out. You can also toss out the eye products if you've had an eye infection. Look at the acne products, prescription medications, antibiotics, sunscreens. Those expiration dates are actually way more important because they can have other reactions. You can break out or they can just lose effectiveness. So you might be using the same thing hoping for results and you're not going to get any. This website, which I will post a link to, says don't buy products packaged in jars of any kind, no matter how pretty they are, because fingers getting into jars and unwanted bacteria add unwanted bacteria to the contents. Most jar packaging carries a 100% risk of bacterial contamination. Don't store products in direct sunlight. Don't share products. Don't add water or saliva to them to thin out or re-moisten the products. Don't pump your mascara. And that is when you take mascara and you go. Now, I'm not taking the wand all the way out. I'm barely moving it. Don't do that. That makes it dry out faster. And don't purchase products with broken seals or other signs of tampering. So these are some helpful hints. I hope you found them helpful. It makes me a little sad because some stuff that I kind of like, I think it's time to part with. But there are some really helpful things out there. Like this chart, I think it's hard to see, but it just has a picture of each of the makeup items, and then it says like their how long they're good for. So that's really handy if you wanted to go through your collection. I will post that below as well. That's from Elle.com. And let me see, I think I had another thing or two to say. Some of the labels actually say how long they're good for. There's an example at SallyBeauty.com where it'll say have a picture of the product on the box and it'll say 6M. That means it's good for 6 months. Anyway, I think that should have given you enough information as to know when your products are expired. But just overall, be clean. Use your cleaning as much as you can. Clean your brushes, clean your sponges. Discard anything if it's questionable. And keep track of when you buy things. Even if you don't write it down, even if you don't do anything, kind of make a note like, yeah, I bought that in the spring. Okay, by next spring, it might be time to get rid of it depending on what it is. Or no, I bought that when I bought that, and that I bought in May. Just that's kind of what I do. I know that, I was living in this apartment at this date, and so that's when I bought these. We had just moved into our house when I bought all that from Mac, kind of things like that help me remember how old things are. And besides that, just be conscious, don't share your makeup, keep things out of the sunlight if at all possible. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.